With winter vortex crossing the United States this last week, which gave us a solid kickoff to our snowy season, some may be curious about whether the Model Y is a capable car for an area with large snow accumulations where temperatures can stay below 0 degrees Fahrenheit for weeks at a time. As a family, we made the switch from two-wheel drive vehicles to all-wheel drive SUVs and trucks, and over the last 20 years that served us pretty well. But here in the upper Midwest, as well as many northern climates around the world, having an all-wheel drive vehicle with great ground clearance is not just a luxury, but can make the difference driving between home and work or getting to a much-needed run to the store. Well, there are some things about the Model Y that may surprise you, making it a highly capable winter driving vehicle. And I'll go over what those are in this video. And you'll want to stick around to the end, as I'll share a few tips that I learned over the previous 2 winters of things that I will do differently this winter that you may find helpful if you are thinking about buying an electric vehicle, especially the Model Y or Model 3. So with that, let's get into it. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is ground clearance. The Model Y has a 6.6-inch clearance between the ground and the bottom of the vehicle. While that isn't the highest of the Tesla vehicles, because the Model X has 8.1 inches of clearance, it does offer an extra 1.1 inches over the Model 3. This is useful in deep snow, as having additional clearance helps it to maintain traction and not get stuck. I found it useful to cross ridges that are often made during snow clearing that can make getting into a driveway difficult, if not impossible at times. So having just a few extra inches of height can make the difference in maintaining traction and not getting stuck in intersections or at the entrance of your driveway. Speaking of traction, there are some features in the Model Y that help the car maintain traction on snowy or slippery roads. The first is that the Model Y is a heavy vehicle. With the battery pack being a large component of the car's weight, the Model Y weighs in at around 4,400 pounds or about 2,000 kilograms. That places it somewhere between a gas SUV in about the same size range, like the Honda CR-V, Subaru Forester, or Nissan Rogue, which weigh around 3,600 pounds, and larger vehicles such as a truck, like the Chevy Silverado, Ford F-150, or Toyota Tundra, which can weigh 5,000 pounds or more. But the extra weight does come with a negative in that you'll need to plan slowdowns a little further out. Also in electric vehicles, regenerative braking can cause the tires to slip if you aren't used to it and you lift your foot off the accelerator too suddenly. But you can reduce the level of regenerative braking in slippery conditions, helping the car coast versus brake when moving your foot between the accelerator and gas pedal. On the other hand, when starting from a stop, I find that the Model Y has no issues getting going, even on roads that are solid ice. This is largely due to the traction control system, which is the next thing that I want to talk about. The traction control system is designed to monitor speed of the front and rear wheels and will minimize wheel spin if a loss of traction occurs. It's done by controlling brake pressure and motor power electronically. You can tell that traction control is actively working by a yellow indicator that flashes on the touchscreen. This system is found in many cars produced today. However, with all-wheel drive Model Y vehicles, you not only have the ability to disable traction control, but also gives you the ability to put the car into off-road assist and balances power delivered between the front and rear motors to optimize traction. It also produces a more gradual torque, which prevents the tires from spinning before the car is moving, which otherwise could lead to digging the tires deeper into the snow. I also want to put a plug in for winter tires, but more on that in a minute, because I want to talk about another thing that makes the Tesla very capable in winter vehicles, and that is the heat pump and the super manifold, also called the Octovalve. You see, we all like cars that keep us warm in the winter, and if you don't have the right type of heater, it can actually drain the battery and reduce the range of the vehicle. Heat pumps were first adopted by electric vehicles such as the Nissan Leaf and are found in other EVs in addition to newer Tesla models. The alternative method of heating an electric vehicle is a traditional electric resistant heater, which is similar to a space heater or electric stovetop in your house. Heat pumps are much more efficient and use less of the car's electricity that's stored in the battery to generate heat, so that makes them more desirable for heating in cars that drive in colder climates. Tesla began providing heat pumps beginning with the launch of the Model Y in 2020, and then following a year later converted the Model 3 and the refreshed Models S and X from resistance heaters to the more efficient heat pump. In the second part of the climate control combination, oh, say that 10 times fast, is a super manifold or Octovalve. While I won't get into an in-depth discussion of how that works, I can tell you that its main focus is to help control the flow of heat between the cabin and battery and the ambient air. Getting the battery to a set temperature and maintaining that temperature relatively quickly allows for faster charging at superchargers, as well as reducing capacity loss during driving. And this leads me to the final thing, which is really a new thing that just arrived to Tesla vehicles with the recent 2022.36 software update, and that's the new Energy app. Now, over the last 2 winters, I found myself referring to the Energy app a lot over long road trips to give me an estimate of how much energy I was drawing from the battery, and with the state of charge, if my car would make it to the next charging location. The app has now been refined beyond just showing you the impact of wind and highway speeds to include other things such as energy consumed by the climate control system, battery conditioning, elevation, and other such things such as charging phones and energy that's used by the computers in the car. And this provides a more detailed feedback during driving that allows me or you to make adjustments to drive more efficiently that translates to better range. I often tell people that owning a Tesla is unique as it's the only vehicle that becomes better over time with frequent software updates. Now, with all the factors that I've mentioned, ground clearance, traction, climate control, and the new Energy app, it's no accident that Tesla, as an auto manufacturer, has really put a lot of thought into developing the Model Y to be very capable to drive in cold winter climates. And now for those tips that I mentioned earlier that I've learned in driving my car over the last 2 winters. But before we get into that, I just wanted to say, if you're finding this video helpful, please hit the like button. And if I brought value to you so far, consider subscribing to this channel. If you've already subscribed, I want to thank you for showing your encouragement. The first is to charge the car every night to 80% for daily driving, and even more, up to 100% if going on long road trips. This allows the ability to preheat the car and defrost the windows if you have to leave it outside during cold winter weather. And related to this, before you leave home, set a scheduled charge with a departure time while the vehicle is plugged in, or preheat the car in the morning before unplugging it. This will use household power instead of power in the battery to preheat your vehicle, which in turn extends your range. The next tip is to install winter tires. If you drive in an area that has regular snow or freezing roads, winter tires are, yes, mwah. And I actually noticed a difference in the first winter driving season when I left the original manufacturer tires in the car, in which the tires would regularly slip when accelerating. And if you're curious what tires I use, I'll include details about those and a link to a couple of videos that I did last year in the description below. If you're someone who drives in extreme winter conditions with heavy snowfalls, you could also consider purchasing and keeping a set of tire chains or tire socks in the car. I don't own either one of those yet, but I'm beginning to research tire socks as they seem to be easier to install and provide better traction in deep snow. Third, keep the cameras clean. I find that the rear camera especially gets dirty, and any reduction in visibility directly impacts the vehicle's ability to use the autopilot features and safety features that are standard on every Tesla vehicle. And the fourth item is that while it's tempting to keep the car clean overall, I would highly recommend against car washes during very cold weather if you're not planning to drive directly from the wash to a heated garage or ramp. With the design of the door handles, it can actually be difficult to open the doors when the handles are frozen. Also, the Tesla app now allows you to open the door from within the app, which is useful as well. This provides a great backup method to get into the vehicle when the handles are stuck in place. And the last tip that I'll share is related to the mirrors. The mirrors auto-fold by default when the vehicle locks. If you're expecting freezing rain or have moisture on the outside of the car that could freeze, consider disabling auto-folding mirrors by changing the setting on the car's touchscreen. So on to another topic, full self-driving. I do a lot of videos on my channel about full self-driving, and it's beginning to snow. So some people may wonder whether full self-driving is useful, especially if the roads are in less than perfect condition. I was curious about that myself, having always been advised not to use traditional cruise control in any vehicle on slippery roads. Since the Tesla autopilot system relies on cameras, it should perform better than cruise control on slippery covered roads, right? Well, while I've tried this, I find mixed results at best. The car doesn't usually stay centered in the lane very well, and since it's unable to determine lane markings, such as a center line and side markings, when they're snow covered, it'll drift, and typically FSD will drift towards the right side of the lane into deep or unplowed snow, which can be an inconvenience at best or either damage the car or cause the loss of control at the worst. But on a positive note for Tesla FSD, I've recently driven on snow-covered streets and have found that the car will slow down appropriately and safely when turning to navigate or when approaching traffic controls such as stoplights or stop signs. That said, I always prefer to drive myself in these conditions for safety, as I'm uncertain whether the current FSD software build is mature enough to detect and respond to all driving variables that I would encounter. And I say this coming from the experience of seeing FSD struggle in construction zones that do have good traction, but where lane markings are not clearly visible. The bottom line is that I don't want to put myself in a situation where full self-driving is overconfident and then gives me the dreaded autopilot unavailable, take over control immediately message. I think that over time, as the software gains more experience in these conditions, then it will respond reliably and be more useful during poor winter driving, but we're definitely not there yet. But you know what? Tesla Full Self-Driving is only one component of the Tesla driving experience. At the start of this video, I said that the Tesla Model Y is a very capable car in the winter. Driver assist technology aside, I definitely feel that it is. From long winter road trips to getting to work during winter storms, I have not had any cold season experiences that make me regret my decision to purchase this car. If you're still curious about specific situations that I didn't cover in this video, feel free to drop a question in the comment section down below. I like to interact and share thoughts with you, or just say hi to people that are curious. And that's all I have for this week. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.